Cloud. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. This is the first in our masterclass series entitled AI Reality versus Hype, Practical Tools and Tips You Can Use Today. And before we get down to business, a few quick housekeeping items as always. First of all, please make sure your audio and video are muted. If you see yourself on screen, you shouldn't be there. So make sure that's done. This is a program where Q&A is very, very important. Unlike a lot of our presentations, this one will instigate a lot of questioning on your part, and there is no question that is too simple or too dumb. I'll ask the dumb questions today, but use the chat button, pop them up there, because I'll be monitoring those as we go through the presentation today, and we'll try to get answers as we go. What else do we have here? The program is being recorded. I will send you out a LuxeStream announcement later on this afternoon, which will have a link to the recording. So if there's something you missed or something you want to go back on and review, you'll be able to click that link, and that will take you to our LuxeStream YouTube channel. So why today's program? With respect to AI, small business practitioners, like a lot of us on the call today, are unable to access the resources that are only available to the large, sophisticated corporate early adopters. And sort of finding one's way through the confusing and confounding AI maze is fraught with uncertainty and risk. Specifically, what's the best program to acquire that's appropriate to my needs? And how can we recognize and exploit the full range of its capabilities and keep pace with enhancements to the technology that literally change by the hour? So to provide some sense of clarity around this confusing subject, we sought the advice of an expert who can identify areas where AI can be most helpful, importantly, which tools to use, and most importantly, show how AI can deliver the highest return on this very heavy investment in time, energy, and to a lesser degree, cost. And all of this, most importantly, supported by examples, case studies, and specific tools that our expert has vetted and looked at and assessed. Our Sherpa guide for today is Bronwyn Nay. Bronwyn brings over 25 years of experience in marketing strategy, communications, and integrated planning to the world of AI. As a former marketing director of wine and consumer packaged goods companies, and having worked with brands including LVMH, Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, Sephora, and Hall Wines, Bronwyn is uniquely positioned to harness the power of AI to drive efficiency, integration, and innovation. What started as a curiosity about the power of generative AI has led to thousands of hours of research, training, and experimentation on her part. And all of that comes today, together today, in a distillation of a program that I know you're going to find very, very valuable. So I'm going to flip the roles there. I'm going to do most of the listening instead of asking all the questions as I normally do. But I do want to set up the agenda briefly. Bronwyn's going to start with, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of sort of the basics. What's the platform? How does it work? Just getting us all to a level where we're on the same wavelength. She'll then segue to lessons learned from an actual real world application, and she's got an intriguing guest to join her for that portion. And then she'll end with examples of how to get started using AI today. When you hang up from this call today, you need to be able to go somewhere based on the knowledge that you've acquired. So she'll take you through practical starting points and specific tools that have been vetted for helpfulness. And again, ask questions. Nothing is too dumb today, because we're really all starting as kindergarten children on this subject. And with that, it's my supreme pleasure to introduce Bronwyn Nay. Bronwyn, it's a delight to have you.
Thank you so much, Alf. I'm so excited to be here. Let me just get my this going. Okay, wonderful. It's great to see some familiar names in the Zoom screens. I've been working with the Marketing Luxury Council for over 2 decades. I can't believe it's almost been 2 decades, Alf. It's crazy. And I just have so much gratitude to Alf and Debbie and all the council members for creating this amazing community and environment for all of us to learn and grow together. I work with clients, large and small, to help them improve and optimize their business strategies and their marketing strategies. And lately, I've been working with a lot of entrepreneurs. When you work with entrepreneurs, they often describe what they do by saying that they're at the intersection of different places because they're trying to articulate something that's new and different that doesn't exist. And so they say that they're at the intersection of X and Y. And so I am, it is a mashup. I'm at the intersection of business strategy, coaching, and integrated marketing. So I've recently co-founded a group called Wine Industry Innovators that infuses micro innovations into marketing and business strategies. And I am delighted to be here today to share practical AI advice with all of you. So I'm a data-driven person. I really like to start with the data. And so that's where we're starting here. Alf recently fielded this survey, which went out to many of you, many of the council members, to better understand how you're currently using AI. So these are the responses to the question, if you're using AI in your business operations, how are you using it? Check all that apply. And you can see this really big bar on the left is people who are using AI to develop marketing materials. So 76% of the respondents, far and above all the other responses, are using AI to develop marketing materials. And that makes perfect sense because we're luxury marketers after all. And there are really great tools out there like Canva that make putting marketing materials easier than ever. Now, 43% of you are using AI to create copy and content, things like MLS listings. And so that's a great number too. But then the adoption and the usage in the other categories is really very low. 7% are managing internal scheduling and operations. So I have some tool ideas to help you with that later. 10% are managing CRM execution. 13% are using AI to help develop strategic direction. And 17% fall in that other category. Really, the other category is huge because there's so many uses in so many ways, it's hard for it all to fit into a category. So what this is telling me is there's lots of opportunity here to do more. And the hypothesis for why people aren't using AI more is time and possibilities. So we aren't giving it enough time, we aren't playing around enough, and we don't even really know what's possible. When we were first coming up with the concept for this meeting, Alf and I were chatting about AI, and we were scratching our heads going, how is this possible that there's so much hype out there about AI and how it's going to change everything and it's such a big deal? And yet, when you talk to practitioners, like real people running their businesses every day, there's this huge gap. It just doesn't seem like it's having that big of an impact. And so what we're hoping to do today is really shine a light on some of those examples, give you some inspiration, show you how people in similar roles to you are using the tool. And then we're also going to understand kind of what might be holding us back and then jump right into those practical experiences. So let's jump in. So we are in the midst of the next major transformation. Everything's moving really, really fast. And they say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And I'm seeing a ton of similarities in the late 2000s right now. Internet is just starting to understand, just starting to be useful to a broader swath of people. So I think there are a lot of parallels with today to the digital transformation, which really didn't happen that long ago. When I was running digital marketing for a luxury retailer in 2002, I was one of Google's largest advertisers at the time, and it was the Wild West. We were trying to figure out how these new tools like e-commerce and search could augment our business and not cannibalize it, because the big fear at that point was cannibalization. And we were also, it feels similar to this moment, but this is so much bigger because it's not just about moving your ad spend from offline to online, or about training your customers on how to use a new online channel. Understand. Oops. Um, it was AI tap. That was my Siri. That was AI helping me right now. AI is tapping into everything and making us rethink how we do everything. It's being adapted quickly in marketing because you can easily conceptualize the use cases in marketing, but it's touching all parts of business. It's touching customer service, business operations, finance and accounting, strategy, HR, learning and development. You name it, AI is seeping in. But with change, there's also fear. So I just want to spend a few minutes breaking down the myths that kind of keep us and hold us back and giving you some obstacle busters or way to kind of break through them. So a little moment of neuroscience here. Our brains really want to keep us safe and avoid change. And we have to fight against that survival mechanism to grow and evolve because our brains want to protect us from risk and stress and keep us safe. And this transformation is a big shift in everything. So it requires new processes, new systems, and new ways of thinking about the world that we need to break through in order to make it feel relevant in our lives. So the first one is AI is confusing and overwhelming. And I have to say, yes, it's absolutely confusing and overwhelming. There are a whole new set of brands and systems and models and assistants that are out there fighting to dominate the space. These logos that I put up on the screen, they may feel familiar to you, or they may look completely foreign. It's not like those tried and true brands that we know and use every day. These are new brands, and they're really fighting for your attention and your space. I've listed out here the most popular and the most talked about LLMs, which is large language models, and the assistants. And each of these platforms has its pros and cons of what it's good for, where it really shines, where it's better for different things. But then on top of these, there are all these customized tools that sit on top of these platforms that take on very specific tasks or solve industry specific problems. So we're looking here at ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, Llama, which is Meta's model, Grok. The French one is Mistral. DeepSeek is Chinese, and so is Qwen. So these are the big models that you hear about a lot, that you see a lot in the news. But on top of these are over 30,000 what they call wrappers, which sit on the top and develop industry solutions. And so those are very ton more that aren't even going to make this slide. So they could be like real estate example, ones like House Canary or virtual staging tools, or specific ones to, how to do presentations or PowerPoints. The choices are growing exponentially every day, and that's definitely leading to confusion and overwhelm. And it's constantly evolving. So last week you may have honed in on this is the best tool for writing that I can use. And then this week you have 3 more tools to evaluate. So it's kind of a never-ending series right now. So what's the easy button here? The first thing is just don't let finding the right tool overwhelm you. Just get started. So ChatGPT is very easy because it's multi-model now, which means that it's pulling in all different types of outputs. Whereas in the past, it used to just be text. Now you're getting image. And if you have the paid version, you're getting Sora, which is their video version. So that's a really good starting point to start with. Another good starting point is in a tool that you already use. So programs like Gemini are built in. If you use Google Workspace, Gemini's already there. So it's really easy just to start using Gemini because you can tap right in. Or if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem with Microsoft Office, Microsoft Copilot is there and it's already right in that system. So that's an easy way to get started. If you're a more advanced user and you're kind of looking for the next greatest and latest tool, one of the things I would suggest is looking at an aggregator like Poe. So this is also a parallel to the early days of search. If you remember back before Google was a verb and there were a ton of search engines and you were trying to figure out which is giving me the results that are most relevant to me, aggregators started to pop up where you could type in a query and then it would show you the results. It would show you AOL searches results and it would show you Ask Jeeves results and Bing's results. And so now they have aggregators like that for for AI models. And so you can go in there and type your prompt once, and then you can play around with how that looks on all the different platforms. It's overwhelming, but if you're ready for that more advanced level, you can go there and discover some really neat things. Most of these tools have free versions, so there's a very low barrier to entry to get going. Although we've been noticing lately the prices are starting to go up and the usage is less and less of what's available on the free version. Definitely watching that closely. I think Christine will talk about that more when we do the user interview. Yeah, so again, the easy button here is just to start with one tool, jump in, test the waters, and then when you know more about what you're looking for, then you can start experimenting. But the advice here is don't get overwhelmed, just get started. And one note is whatever tool you are selecting, you should always read the privacy policy and make sure the terms of use is appropriate for your specific needs. So the second myth I want to bust here is if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And I think this is a big one because when things are working well, it's really hard to change. And you might be thinking, I'm at the top of my game. I've got systems. I've been doing this for years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to change. I don't even need AI, you might be thinking. But you really do. The move fast and break things era is upon us, whether we like it or not. And disruption is here. And recognizing that what worked in the past won't always continue to work in the future and forever is really an important perspective. It might already be broken, but you just don't realize it yet. The third one is I can't trust technology. So this is a popular myth that also holds us back in mistrust. There's a lot of mistrust of technology because it's new and we don't know what it's capable of. Can we use it for good? Can we use it for evil? It's confusing because it's new and it doesn't have a lot of history. It's hard enough to delegate an important task to another human, let alone a machine. And then there's all the scariness of what out there in the news called hallucinations. So you've probably heard this term that AI is unreliable because it hallucinates. And what that means is that because the way generative AI works is it's kind of predicting what the next logical word is going to be, and it wants to please you. So sometimes it fills in the gaps. If the information isn't there in order to make it truthful, it will just fill it in to get it done. And so a year ago, this was a really big deal. There were hallucinations all over the place when you were using AI, where you would type in a query and a message would come back and it may have referenced a fake study or had made up another piece of information or a person or a resource or something in the response. Improved hallucination rates have really dropped in the last several months. So this is not nearly the risk that it was before, but it's definitely something to be aware of. You definitely have to be a critic when you're looking at the responses. You can't just take the responses and just run with it. You have to be a critical thinker and think them through. And then there's all the privacy and protection stuff, which can be scary, again, because of the unknown. So I have one privacy and protection tip for you. If you're using ChatGPT, do a quick settings check. Go into your settings. It's that little button in the upper right, and then scroll down to data controls. And then take a look at this little statement right here. It says, it seems really innocuous. It says, improve the model for everyone. And by default, it's turned on. But this is really tricky wording because it sounds generous and helpful. We're nice people. We like to help people. We like things to improve. So it really kind of gets at being a good person. But if you toggle this on, it means that the info that you're sharing and uploading and your prompts and all of that is going back into the training model. So you probably want to turn this off. Just a little tip there. Okay. I skipped, this one, sorry. Yeah. So this is the next one, is that hard work. So work should be hard. And if it's easy, I'm cheating. And I think this is a big hang up for a lot of people when they're using new tools. We're really raised to be hard workers at our societal level. It's part of our culture. You know, shortcuts are cheating, like we have to work hard. And so it can hold us back when we're evaluating new tools. I think of this like cooking. Imagine that you were trying to prepare a really complicated meal, and it would be possible to make that great meal without a food processor. But if you have a recipe that suggests that you use a food processor, it's going to be a lot quicker and a lot more efficient to use one. So that doesn't feel like cheating. It's a tool that feels comfortable in our kitchens that we know. And so using tools when you can really shouldn't feel like cheating. I'm even imagining way back to how like the hunter-gatherers must have felt when they were starting to think about how they might use fire. You know, it could be used for good or evil. It was hard to control, but really it changed what you could eat and how you could prepare food and arguably our whole way of living. So it's a new paradigm shift. And it's something that we need to really think about how these tools can be useful and helpful to us. And the final one is I don't have time. So we're all running at 130% capacity and we're so overscheduled and have so many demands on our time. It's really hard to make time for new things, especially something that you're not sure if it's going to get the result that you want. Like you might put the time in and then you actually don't get the desired result. We really don't make time to like dabble and experiment. We really don't have time to be wrong. Our work demands and our personal obligations are way too long, and we have way too much on our to-do list to feel comfortable experimenting or playing with a new technology. But I would argue that you either make time now or you'll have way too much time on your hands later when you've been replaced by someone or something that's more flexible and more forward thinking. We see this a lot in our innovation work as well. We don't make time for innovation because it doesn't show up on our to-do list. It's just too big and too nebulous. And so I really encourage you to reframe this work as essential. It's no longer a luxury. You need to carve out the time to innovate and experiment. It's absolutely essential. So I want to stress this point now that we've cleared out the myths. AI is really it's not a strategy in itself. It's a power tool. It helps you be more effective and more productive, but you need to ask the right questions in order to get helpful outputs. You have to point it in the right direction. If you're using AI regularly, but you aren't focusing your efforts on solving the problems in your business that need solving, then you're wasting your time. You want to start with clarity around the problem you're trying to solve and how you can go about doing that. What's keeping you up at night? What's the root cause? What's the sticking point? Where do you need help? So where do you need help is a really interesting question. And so I wanted to dig into these 5 examples of roles that AI can play. The first, which is the most common, and you're probably all using AI this way right now, is treating AI like an intern. So write a blog post, research a topic, write an MLS listing. You're asking it for simple grunt work that can be delegated to a newbie. The stakes are low, expectations are low, and that can go from there. So it's just kind of like a low stakes area. And you know you're going to have to check it and improve it because it's not going to be perfect. The next one is about analyst. So this is a really powerful one, and it becomes even more powerful because you can tap in to kind of infinite knowledge. And so when you have all of these sources and all of this knowledge at your fingertips, the analyzation of the knowledge becomes even more important. So this is for researching, summarizing, extracting, synthesizing, recognizing patterns, trends, insights, distilling these things into key takeaways, or reformatting and summarizing these things into a chart. Really, really powerful way to use AI, an analyst in your pocket. The next one is about translator, and this isn't just about language translation. So it's not just about take my information and convert it to Spanish. It's also about translating into other languages like computer languages. It can write code, and you can write Python or other concepts. that you can put into a translator. We're going to talk a little bit about this in some of the tip sections too. But you can also use this idea to translate a complex idea into a very specific audience. So, for example, how would I explain quantum physics to a 10-year-old? And it can kind of distill it down and explain that for you. Teacher is a really powerful one too. Asking AI to teach you anything. You set the parameters, you set the time frame, you set the desired outcome, you tell it how you like to learn, and it will go through all the information and develop a learning plan for you and keep you accountable. And then thought partnership. So this is about brainstorming, challenging, exploring associations from other fields, kind of bringing things in beyond the scope of your individual experience. And we're going to get more into this because the person that I know that is the best thought partner to AI is here on the call. And so we're going to segue now into our power user interview with Christine Comans, who is a very, very thoughtful leader of a user and of AI. Okay, Christine, here you are. Welcome.
Thank
So
you.
Christine Comans is a marketing communications consultant with Crew Creative, and I've been working with her for several decades as well. Her past clients include Chapelet, Hourglass, Knightsbridge, Hall, and Clodaval. And Christine is both a strategic marketer and a graphic designer and a writer. She was actually trained as a poet, so she writes absolutely exquisite and beautiful tasting notes. And unlike many of the other creatives and designers I've worked with, Christine is laser focused on how the customer will perceive the message and understanding that a creative is not successful unless it has a strong call to action and a measurable business outcome. Christine is absolutely brilliant to work with, and she was the one who first got me into AI. She kept asking me, "Are you paying attention to this? Are you using this? Are you testing this?" And of course, my response early on was, "No, I'm too busy. I have too much client work. I don't have time for this." She's like, "You got to pay attention to this." So I'm forever grateful to Christine for waking me up to these opportunities, and I'm really delighted for her to be here to share her wisdom with us today.
Well, thanks, Bronwyn. I
Yeah, go
appreciate
ahead.
that. I see a lot of GPT content in the luxury marketing universe. 9 times out of 10, it superfluously includes words like exquisite. You can usually, spot it a mile away when someone has just kind of very rudimentarily used a prompt, thrown it into a GPT without any real understanding or knowledge of how to use the tool, asked for something back and said, "Hey, it's complete sentences and it includes these 3 details that I wanted it to include." It's a wrap. And so, unfortunately, you're seeing, I think, kind of a shift in messaging out in the world today where we've gone from, original messaging, a lot of it being maybe not so great, and then having your writers come in and actually providing polished messaging, to a lot of people putting out a lot of messaging that appears polished, that tends to be incredibly vanilla, and doesn't convey a whole lot of real meaning or connection. So I really am going to focus today on the creative content side of it and the creative thought partner side of things, as far as using AI as a power tool. When I started using AI about 2 years ago, I used it to brainstorm. I had a client that was looking for a name for a new wine, which can be incredibly tedious to think through and then research to see if the name has been used elsewhere. I happened to find a random GPT that specifically said it was for creating a name. It was kind of crazy. I mean, this was a few years ago, and I think I paid $100 to use this tool like for a single session. So you think about how much the technology has changed. But I decided I'd plug into it because I had a very specific need. It advertised itself as providing a very specific output. And I started to play with it. And, I found a couple things. I found its number one strength was going out and researching for me, more than giving me a really solid, original, dare I say, soulful suggestion for a name. It was able to just kind of pull a lot of things together for me that I could then synthesize. It would also give me a lot of gobbledygook that showed me where not to go. Sometimes it's helpful to have a thought partner that takes you in directions that kind of realigns your thinking and puts you in the right space. So ultimately, I was able to come up with a name, but not because of it, not through it, but because of it, if that makes sense. I realized that it could be a wonderful tool and collaborator, but it wasn't there just to give me all of the answers. The core message with that is that AI can really serve luxury marketing, but we need to maintain the authorship. Because as we know, as luxury marketers, it's about discernment, it's about expertise, it's about restraint, it's about clarity. And if you're not careful, GPTs can be exactly opposite that. So it's figuring out how to use this tool really smartly and proficiently, especially within the context of AI marketers, because gosh, we know when it's done poorly. It's just incredibly obvious. So I then went into going from using this tool into starting working with ChatGPT. And I was spinning my wheels quite a bit in the beginning. And I quickly realized that I learned how I needed to create my own customized GPT. And when you're using ChatGPT, as I believe as a free user, I don't know that you have this capability, which is unfortunate. It really kind of requires you to invest in it in order to really explore it to its full potential. But within ChatGPT, you can create a custom GPT. And what you do with that is you can then train it on your brand. And the way that you train a GPT on your brand is you're going to, first of all, explain to it what its role is. So if you want it to be your marketing assistant who is an expert in the San Francisco real estate market, for example, who has an incredibly deep knowledge. I'm out of my depth talking about real estate. I can talk about wine. Who has, someone who is an expert in wine marketing, who can, speak like a sommelier and maintain a very natural voice like the winemaker, who understands Napa Valley appellations, for example. And you go on and you really create what feels like a very wordy definition for your GPT, but you do it once and it will become that for you, and you don't have to do this every single time. GPTs have this huge unlimited universe of information that it's gathered, and what you want it to do for your needs is to be very focused and very precise in your arena. So it's very important, number one, to tell your GPT who it is and what it needs to know. That's number one. Then what you're going to do for your GPT is you're going to train it on your brand. And this is absolutely vital. And what that means is you're going to take whatever documents you have, whether it's on your website, whether it's brochures, whether it's other materials that you know have worked really well in the past and truly capture your brand and have resonated well, you will upload those to your GPT. This will become its encyclopedic knowledge of your specific brand. Now, something really, really important is that you need to fully understand your brand essence. I work with clients on, brand essence and, what is it that's truly distinctive about your brand? And I can't tell you how many clients, especially the winery clients, that will say, well, we're family owned and we make the best wine we possibly can, and we're in the Napa Valley. How many brands is that? There's no distinction there whatsoever. Usually I work with the clients to really dig down and figure out what are those points of difference. What is your why? Why should people care? As you go through and you're working to educate your GPT, the beauty is, in a lot of ways, you're covering your own luxury marketing fundamentals. You're auditing your own brand as you're working to train your GPT to understand your brand. So I feel like that's just a wonderful opportunity. Bronwyn mentioned, oh, maybe I don't have the time. Everybody, no matter what, needs to take the time to do a brand audit, know that who they say they are is being conveyed to the audience. Know your audience. That's another thing you're going to convey to your GPT. Who is your target audience? What is your desired outcome? All of these things you're training your GPT on as you're basically creating your own audit and review of the fundamentals that are making you a good luxury marketer. So you're feeding all of this to your GPT, and then you're going to really, that's where the relationship starts. So you're doing all of this background, you're building this up. You've suddenly got this model that kind of blinks alive and says, hello, Bronwyn, let's work on, winery A campaigns today. What do you want to start first? Then the next thing to understand, once you've built this trained GPT that knows your brand inside and out, is you're going to learn how to prompt your GPT. And you need to think of yourself as a director, and you think about things like creative briefs. And when you've worked with an outside agency and you've had to answer a lot of questions, and so that you can really steer this agency to provide the output that you want from it. And if your brief is not detailed, if it's not including, again, the things that make your brand unique, if you're, when you're contacting it, when you're working with a photographer and you're not giving it a detailed shot list, and then you get back a bunch of images that don't meet your needs, you can't question why, right? So it's the same thing with the GPT. You're going to learn how to create detailed prompts that are going to give you back really what your desired output is. And that's really, really key. It's also a fun fact, and I learned this, when you talk to your GPT, whether you're typing or whether you're speaking, you want to maintain a certain decorum and politeness and friendliness. And believe it or not, your GPT will perform better for you if you create an illusion of a camaraderie with it. It's kind of spooky, but it's completely true. And it's the GPT being kind of modeling on language, is you're setting a tone, you're setting a professionalism for your GPT. So just keep that in mind. So even if you get frustrated and you need to kind of redirect your GPT, make sure that your prompts are polite, and you know, I even sometimes apologize. I compliment it when it gives me a good output. I want it to know that I'm happy with the output, or I'm very diplomatic when I try to kind of steer it back to what it needs to be doing for me. So that's just a really interesting,
wild.
fun fact to be aware of.
I love that. And also, Christine, when you were saying about these custom GPTs, you were saying you do those on the paid model, but there is a pretty accessible version of the paid model. Like I think for ChatGPT, it just starts at like $20 right now, right? So
Yes.
this is an investment, but it's not a crazy investment, and it really does give you a lot more tools and opportunities.
It really does. And, you know, the thing is, you know, once you've gone through the prompts, it gives you an output. Don't think that's the end either. And I don't want to make this sound like it's really at the end of the day, as you learn to use this and you become seasoned, you are faster, and you know, you will become faster and more efficient, but it's going to allow you to really put the fine point on things, because it cuts a lot of research out, it cuts a lot of the tedium out, it takes you from not having anything on a blank page to giving you a really solid draft. But I want you to keep in mind it's a draft. The thing that GPT is giving you in that first go round is not necessarily your final output. That's where you infuse it with your expertise. You kind of add the soul. You use your discernment to see when something is a little too corny or flowery or superfluous or redundant. You know, it's very important that it's got to be human led, it's human directed, it's human edited. So that's really important to be aware of as you go through the process. So I'll usually take what my trained GPT has given back to me. I'll go ahead and then maybe put it into another GPT. I have to tell you, I'm going to put in a plug for Claude. Claude is a GPT that I find to be a better writer a lot of times than ChatGPT. Claude tends to like translate a lot of the stuff that the chat GPT model will give me and kind of make the sentences. I find it's a little more sophisticated in sentence structure and nuance. And then I'll take the Claude model, and then I will take it for myself and do my own editing and hand it back to my chat GPT for review. And what's important to know is, as you are going through the process of iterations with your GPT, that's another source of learning for your GPT. Your GPT is learning what types of edits you want from it, and it will get better as you go. So that's another thing to know. Don't be discouraged when you first start out with your GPT. Even after training it, it's still listening and absorbing the interaction it's having with you, and it will get better for you and better meet your needs the more that you work with it.
Yeah.
Bronwyn, we're at the
So
15-minute mark here now. I just wanted to give you a time check.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just love the way Christine uses these tools, and it really frees her up to be her highest and best self. So kind of takes the tedium and the basic things kind of out of her process and helps her focus on the things that really matter and the places where she really adds value. Christine, thanks so much for sharing your very thoughtful approach with us and sharing your wisdom and insights. Is there anything else that you want to share before we move on?
You know, I just want to say, you know, that understanding that luxury marketing is built on intimacy, voice, and trust. GPT can help us scale that, but we always have to stay in control. So, you know, just keep that in mind. You know, get started. Uh, you know, we'll also have we have a one pager of kind of I've put together kind of a one pager that'll kind of take you through a prompt that you can use when you get off the call. So that'll be available to you with some of these tips. And you know, just use it wisely, use it well, and you know, just get better at what you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. We so appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So as Christine had mentioned, it's really important that you focus on the outcome and not the shiny objects. So this is a little bit about the process of how you can really make sure that you're focused on the outcome and not being distracted by, squishing your image into Play-Doh or making your dog talk or doing all these crazy things that you can do with AI now. Those are totally distractions, and so it's important to focus. And so through focus, we start with the end in mind, clearly envision what the result will look like and feel like, and understand your why. Why are you doing this? What is the outcome going to be? Next, you want to audit your workflows. So what is your current workflow to accomplish this goal? What are the steps that you are taking right now? Where are your pain points? And where are there opportunities for efficiency? Next, you want to map to your strengths. So I also happen to be a strengths coach, and I've found that when you're aware of your strengths and your unique operating system, so really kind of what you like to do, where you add value, you can make some small adjustments that put you more into flow and remove some of that friction from your life. So what part of the process is your favorite part? Make sure you're doing more of that and less of the things that are not your favorite. Then you want to assemble the data. So you want to train your models, give it lots of input so that it can optimize the output. You can include examples of past campaigns, things that you admire, examples of work, background information. Just the more information you can give it, the more relevant the output will be. And then finally, I'd like to suggest that you reinvest your energy and your time saved. And it's up to you now to figure out how you're going to intentionally use this time that you've saved and apply it in a meaningful way that brings you more joy and more satisfaction. So don't just let it be an efficiency and push you to do more. Let it open up kind of that other level of making it pay out for you. So Christine talked a little bit about this too, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not starting with the end in mind and you don't know where you're going, or you don't have a clear idea of the desired outcome, you're probably just going to get a big mass of wires that aren't that helpful or useful to you. So it's really important before you get started to have the end in mind. And prompt engineering can really help you. If you haven't heard this term, prompt engineering is about the questions you're asking and the inputs you're asking. You hear this a lot in generative AI, and it's really the practical side of the garbage in, garbage out idea. So the clearer and more specific you can be, the more likely the output will meet your expectations. A simple framework is something like the RTF framework, which is R stands for role, T stands for task, and F stands for format. So if you think RTF, and then you go ahead and explain what that means. So that might be an RTF prompt might be something like, act as an Emmy award-winning Today Show editor. Write a script of an interview featuring product X. The format is pre-production script for 2 speakers, the interviewee and the host, and should be no more than 7 minutes long. So that's an example of using that RTF framework. I've even seen kind of Mad Lib style formulas. There's tons of frameworks out there, but the Mad Lib style formulas are really fun where you basically just fill in the blank. But if you don't have a formula that you like, or you're more of an unstructured thinker, you can do what's on the right-hand side, which is a little bit more organic, and it's called promptless prompting. So this is where you ask the AI to ask you questions to build a prompt. So you can say, please ask me 10 questions to help me write a script. Please ask me 10 questions to help me prepare an MLS listing. So it's going through and getting the context it needs through the questions, which is a really powerful and easy way to get started with the promptless prompting. So now I'm going to share with you 5 different tools and techniques that are very specific that can give you some extra that you can start using right away. So the first one is about note-taking and audio to text. So the problem here, again, we're going to focus on the problem, is that you spend all day in meetings and you're just running around and you have no time to really distill your notes or to follow up on the to-dos or delegate out kind of the next steps. I have tons and tons of notebooks where I've written out detailed notes, and often they just stay there. They don't make it to that next phase where they're actually useful and out there to help other people and move things forward. They're great to refer back to, but they're kind of locked in my notebook and not available for other people to access or collaborate. So there's a speech to text tool. There's a lot of speech to text tools out there, but the one I really like is called Otter. There are a number of really good ones, but Otter is a great starting point for a speech to text tool. And so here's a scenario of how you might use Otter. You just got a new listing and you're headed to the property to do a walkthrough. You step out of the car, you open Otter on your phone, and you narrate what you're seeing. Plush landscaping, majestic entrance, porch swing. You're verbalizing your thoughts to the Otter. And then when you get back to the office, your speech has been converted to text, and you can upload that as source material to start writing your MLS listing. So depending on your process and how much you enjoy writing, you might want AI to write the first draft. So you might want to upload the text of your verbal, what you saw at the property, and have AI write the first draft. Or you might want to use that reference point as a fact check at the end to make sure that you didn't miss anything. So you might write your own draft and then have it reference your audio file to see if there was anything that you left out or anything that you forgot to add. So lots of clever ways to use it. I'm sure you've been in meetings. I don't know if there's anyone in this meeting where they send their note taker instead. Some people are using it where the note takers then go and then summarize the meeting, and then that saves you time as well. So many different uses and use cases, but a really powerful tool of audio to text. The next one is about tech support. So this one is the problem you're trying to solve here is you have a very specific question and now you need an answer. And so the old way to do it was you had to go to the manual or you had to go to kind of the help section of that specific website or tool or whatever, and then kind of read through and table of contents, figure out exactly what page you needed to go to or where your question might be answered and find it. The new way, and you can do this through ChatGPT or all the tools, frankly, do it pretty well, is you just type a question. It's very conversational. You know, I'm in iMovie and I can't remember how to trim. And then it goes in and it gives you a step-by-step 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's how you do it, or here's the command. You know, I'm getting into my car and it's daylight savings and I can't remember how to turn the timeline or the time clock back. And instead of going to the manual, you can just ask ChatGPT and it will tell you exactly step by step, exactly cuts you straight into where you need to go. So that's a really powerful time saver. The next one that I really am excited about is storytelling through video. So as a winery marketing director, video was never really in my toolkit. I loved video and I loved the storytelling aspect of it, but it was way too expensive to produce. And then it was very expensive to distribute on top of that. Like I wasn't buying TV ads or I didn't have like a distribution vehicle. And my budgets simply weren't big enough to access video. But I knew that video was a really powerful way to get your message across. Now there are amazing tools that do text to video as well as a number of different things in video. And I'm going to show you one called Runway ML. So this is an example of text to video. And what you're seeing here is, again, a tool called Runway ML. And the prompt is simply a dreamlike and disorienting hyperlapse race through 1980s New York City. So this is great for generating B-roll and different information. And literally all you have to do is type that in and that's the result, which is mind-boggling, mind-boggling. The next video example I want to show you is, it's called Synthesia. And so this is all about also text to video, and I'll let it explain a little bit. Hopefully the audio will be good on this one.
Synthetic humans are AI-powered avatars that can be used to create lifelike video content
without requiring any camera equipment or a human actor. And with Studio, you can mix and match synthetic humans, show graphics, and apply animations to create engaging and polished videos.
Here's an example of an avatar that I created in just a few minutes.
Hi, I'm John, and I'd like to show you a new property I just listed. Come take a look with me.
So it's not perfect technology yet. It's a little bit rough. You know, you can see it's not exactly where you want it to be, but this idea of avatars or even a clone of yourself. I mean, how many times have you said, oh, I wish I could just clone myself? Those technologies are possible and they're getting better and better every day. So I can think of so many different uses of where it might be helpful to have a clone help you expand your time and articulate things that you have to say over and over again. And that Synthesia is the company that did that one. The next example is about repurposing content. So this is, let's say you have a blog post or a really long story. Maybe you have a fully developed brochure or something, and then you want to carve it up into different pieces so that you can get it into all your social media channels. So you want a Pinterest post, a LinkedIn post, a Facebook post, an Instagram post. And so you can take that source material or that kind of long form article and then have it rejigger it for all these different tools in which all the different communication vehicles where you need to post. And it can help you figure out, you know, what the requirements are, you know, 280 characters, and X and blah, blah, blah. So it can help you get really specific on what it is. And I know I'm almost running out of time, so I'm going to go through these really fast. It can absolutely increase the effectiveness of your communication. So it can be like an empathy finder. You know, I'm going into a meeting with a Gen Y first-time home buyer. What might the concerns be? You know, what might they be thinking about the concerns or fears of being a first-time home buyer, and giving you those thoughts and things that you can head out at the pass. Also loving to use AI to help you get unstuck and minimize your procrastination. So with my clients, I use a tool called Clifton Strengths, which helps you understand kind of your unique operating system so that you can focus on that highest and best use. And then you can find tools that help you in the areas where you would be likely to procrastinate. It's a really powerful tool. And then these are some basic tools to reclaim time. Since we started with time, I want to end with time. This is a good place to start. Calendly will help you kind of slot people in and manage your schedule. So instead of all the back and forth about, can we meet this day? Can we meet that day? You just send them a link to your calendar. I'm sure many of you are using this because this tool has been around for a long time. But then the more advanced version of that is Motion AI, which then schedules it all for you and takes a lot of different tasks and puts them all together. So you prioritize, it helps you prioritize and schedule. And then if you miss it, it reschedules it. And it's really powerful, interesting tool. They say that it saves you like 4 hours a day. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what they say. And definitely worth checking out. And then the next frontier of all this is automation through agents, which is the more autonomous version where automation actually kicks in. And so a whole bunch of stuff happens in the background without you. It's all been pre-programmed and gets you, when you start with it, it's way further along. So this is great for things like research and lead gen and all these different things that we have to do that are time consuming when you have a dedicated process and workflow. So what now? This is my advice for getting started. Number one, dedicate time. Number two, be curious, take a class, talk to someone, learn by experimenting, check out some of these tools. Develop a plan that works for you, either DIY or hire an advisor. And then finally, share your experiences and encourage others. And along the share your experiences and encourage others, I'd like to invite you to join our, we've tried to create a community where AI curious practitioners can kind of come together and share tools that they're seeing, different insights, ask questions, a real safe environment where you can collaborate with others for people who are interested in exploring this space. So if you'd like to join me here, I'd love to see you in our community.
Bronwyn, thank you very much. I hope people will join your community. I'm going to do it myself because I'd like to get into a lot of applicability or application as well. And I'm assuming that that's what happens within this community. Today, we were fortunate to sort of understand what it means, how to approach it. Again, it's changing by the hour. So what we learn today will be outdated tomorrow, but the application role will be important. So feel free to come into to Bronwyn's community. I want to thank you for all the time you put in today's presentation, Bronwyn. It's very valuable. It's the starting point of the journey, and I made copious notes of things that I need to do now based on what you told me to do. So with that, we are at the top of the hour. We're always very, very disciplined on timing here. We want to thank you for joining us today. If you want to reprise any of the material, watch for a Lux stream in your inbox this afternoon with a copy of the recording, and you'll be able to go over the material that Bronwyn presented. And she is there with her Gmail account. And Bronwyn, how do we get the tip sheet from Christine?
I have that in the community. So if you want to go ahead and scan this QR code, you can go there, or feel free to email me, or I can send you the tip sheet as well.
That's fantastic. I think that tip sheet would be very important.
Yes.
So with that, folks, we are adjourned. Bronwyn, thank you again. And we thank you for joining us today. With that, bye-bye.
Thank you.